Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen of the pairs we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because I do have a bonus pair in store, so make sure you do stay to the end to find out which pair that is. But yeah, guys, we'll go through my trade for the week first and then progress into the analysis shortly after. I only have one trade this week, so it'll be fairly quick. If there is a pair you want to skip ahead to, feel free to do so using the timestamps down below. But I had one position this week on CAD Swiss. Shorts on this one, still currently in the trade, so I have not exited it, but I have banked some partials and moved my stop loss to break even. So I entered this one on Tuesday, I believe, Tuesday and Wednesday, around here. Really nice rejection from the zone and looking for the market to roll over. We have a really nice higher time frame trend to the downside, so I'm overall looking for us to continue the trend, basically come back down to these lows, but I'm just going to be taking my profit around these areas here. So already banked some there and I'll probably call it a day. Maybe I might leave 10% to run, but we're kind of at all-time lows here for CAD CHF, so I don't want to overstay my welcome. But that's the trade I'm currently in. We'll see how that progresses into next week, but on to the analysis. I told you it'll be quick. Okay, so Euro USD tanking to the downside. This is what I've been looking for Euro USD, either move up or move down. I haven't really been too bothered about which way Euro USD moves, because again, we're traders, not investors. We can go both ways here. So I'm looking to see the market break up or break down. We had a lot of rejection here, tough time trying to break through this level, and eventually the market is now spilling over to the downside. So simply, all I'm looking for is some upside retracement and then some more downside. My targets for Euro are back down to this high here. You can see this was kind of the last climatic move to the downside before we actually started this uptrend here to the upside. So this is where I do envision Euro USD heading towards. We could be going further. Maybe it could be a high time frame reversal. We've had this humongous dump to the downside over the past year or so. This could just be the retracement to kick back in and go south again. So there is a lot of downside potential for Euro USD, but again, we're just going to play it slowly, level by level. So this is the next major target I'm looking at. If the market is just incredibly bearish next week, then we could be looking at a push back down to this support level, because it's kind of like a big double top. So we could be looking for a push back down to 1.05 into that kind of neckline area. But we'll just be looking at 1.075 until we get there at least. So now I'm just looking at pullback, a really nice area of interest here. This is a prior low here. Gave us a really nice drive to the upside, and then obviously since then the market has broken through. So simply I'm looking at a correction to the upside, retest that area around 1.094. Now I'm looking at continuation to the downside. As you can see, all these lows here on the left. Oh, let me change the color. All these lows on the left have been taken out, which is showing us that, okay, the bears are probably here to stay. The fact that the buyers are no longer holding this corrective uptrend, the multiple levels of support have failed, and now we're seeing some really good momentum, which is the key thing I was looking for, the cherry on the top, because if we broke it to the downside quite correctively, then I'm not too sure if I would follow that move, because again, it's kind of like a big consolidation. But now that we're kind of ripping away from this choppy market conditions, it tells me that, okay, the bears are stepping in. So simply I'm just looking for some pullbacks and some continuations, and this will be the target for next week. So this will be what I'm looking for. Stop loss above the area, or will be above the entry candle, but above the area there mostly, and looking for a move back down. Let me just make the color a little bit darker so you guys can see it. But yeah, that's what things stands for Euro USD. So simply some pullbacks back into 1.095. Targets can just be down to the most recent lows. So if the market does start pulling back from here, this could be a nice target to have. Or if you want to stretch a little bit further, we do have this key 4H area there at 1.075 as well. So it's up to you how you want to manage your trade, but this is what I'll be looking for next week for Euro USD. Okay, so up next we've got USD JPY. So this one's still printing the higher lows, as we can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the market is now breaking to the upside. So I wasn't too sure about USD JPY looking for the buys. Overall, the structure was still to the upside, but we did have this kind of impulse action here, which was this big move to the upside followed by an impulse back down. So I did say coming into this area of resistance, I do expect to see a drive lower, potentially back into this support, but I said I'll only be looking for shorts until these lows get broken, and if they do, I'll look for the correction and then the continuation, because then we've actually got an established bearish trend. We did see the move lower, however we didn't break structure, so the buyers were still holding that area. Now that we've seen price start breaking through 135 and also creating new highs past at this point here as well. So this tells me, okay, buys are back in. We're seeing good momentum as well. So buys are looking very, very good here for USD for next week. We've got a key resistance up there, which is going to be our target for the trade, or the target for my trade. Necessarily, it doesn't have to be for yours as well, but that's the kind of forecast for the next kind of few days for USD. So simply looking at pullbacks, this is the structure price is creating. So as long as we stay above 133.760 around this area here, I will be looking for longs for USD. So the area of interest for me is this prior high here, or resistance on the lower time frames, just underneath 135. So 134.820, 134.800. I'm looking for a retest of the structure and the continuation to the upside. So something like that, retest next high low and get the continuation to the upside. If we push further to the upside on the market open, then I'll consider the retest of this high here, but the breakout is a little bit too shallow. It's not big enough for me. I need price to really start pushing before I look for the retest of this. Again, when I'm looking for my break and retest, I really want price to commit in the direction, not just see a close above or below a level. So I need to see price push a little bit further, and then I'll be interested in the retest of this for the buys. If that happens, then yeah, 135.400 will be an area of interest. As things stands, this is the only level I'm looking at. So again, looking for some longs in this area. And let me just make this a little bit brighter so you guys can see the levels properly. But this is basically what I'm looking at for USD. Then targets, you know, backed up to the prior highs around 137.500. So simple price action, market making consistent high lows. Now starting to break through some key resistance as well with some good momentum. So now it's looking for some healthy retracement and buys back up to 137.5 for next week. Okay, so over to USD CAD. So USD CAD did surprise me this week. We were expecting to see a bounce to the upside, you know, coming into a very key level of daily support, and also, you know, into these higher lows. The market hasn't broken through, you know, any of these high lows since we started creating them back in was that March or 2021? No, June 2021. The market's been consistent with these high lows on the daily time frame, and again we came back to revisit one of them, and the market respected it very, very well. So I was expecting to see a bounce to the upside, but I wasn't expecting to see such a big rip to the upside, because we had this colossal sell-off to the downside at the back end of last week. So I was expecting to see some upside and then a lower high form, and the market come back down to that same level, but the daily time frame stepped in and the market really ripped to the upside. So USD CAD is coming to an interesting place, because the buys are not looking good up here. You want to be making sure you're buying a lot further down. So, you know, retest of these areas would be nice. On the other hand, sells actually look pretty good coming to this area. We're still seeing a lot of conviction to the downside, obviously with this big impulse here. I'm also seeing some lower highs here, so I do expect to see some type of reaction here. But again, I would not hold the trade too long. USD CAD is in a very, very weird situation where the market is almost consolidating, so I wouldn't be looking to hold trades too long, period, for USD CAD, unless you're down low or you're up high, because then you're up at the extremes or down at the extremes, and you can have a much safer stop loss placement in here. Is always going to be a little bit dodgy because of the way the market's moving. It's almost consolidation. We do have these slight higher lows, but it's a very, very choppy market structure, so be careful. But we are coming to a nice area of confluence. As you can see, this is where the momentum came from here at 1.35800. So I am expecting to see some type of reaction here, but again, I wouldn't be pushing the trade too long. So naturally speaking, sales are looking good here, just underneath 1.36. And also buys are still looking pretty good, because we still do have that higher time frame bullish structure. So again, retest of this area here, resistance broke through, no retest. If we can get a revisit there, naturally buys look good as well. So I'm seeing good sells and good buys for USD CAD. I am starting to lean to more the bullish side of things, because we're still seeing those high lows be respected very, very well. So it does tell me that eventually probably the market will be pushing a lot higher, but nonetheless we'll probably get some nice short-term sells, and then we can look for some longer-term buys following that up. So this is what I'm looking at for USD CAD into next week. Sells from around 1.36 and also buys from 1.34. Anything in here I'm not interested at all. Again, the market's kind of consolidating. I want to be sure that I'm at least trading from some solid areas where I can get a safe stop loss. So this is kind of my forecast for next week for USD CAD. And now onto Euro Pound. So Euro Pound starting to look interesting again. We're seeing some really good momentum on the daily, and as you can see, breaking through some really nice structure here to the downside. So naturally, I'm looking at some corrections back up and some more sales for this one. So as you can see, nice impulsive move. Had the correction last week, and then even bigger impulsive move, breaking through some key lows there on the left, as we can evidently see. So Euro Pound for me, nice and bearish structure. I want to see a little bit more on this retracement. The pullback is a little bit choppy here, so I'm looking for a little bit higher up for Euro Pound. We've got these lower highs here, looking to see if we can catch the next one. Another big push to the upside, take out some of these weaker lows on the lower time frame, looking for a lower high, and then some more downside, and simply back down to support. We can probably push a little bit further. There's a nice area down here around 0.64 with this consolidation and big kind of breakout to the upside. We could be seeing the market come back and retest some of these areas here. Let me actually change the color so we can all see that. But there's some nice areas there, and just underneath it as well with this area here too. So there's some decent extended targets, but again, Euro Pound's a very choppy pair, so I don't want to overstay my welcome. It's not like a really nice trending pair like a Pound USD or a JPY pair. This market is very, very up and down. So from my experience, it's been better just to take your profit early. So Euro Pound looking at some sales from 0.87636 back down to 0.86729. Potentially could be looking at 0.863 as well. But that will be the analysis, the forecast for next week for Euro Pound. Okay, so next up we've got AUD USD. So for me, for this one, still ranging. The price came back to the highs of the resistance. Really nice move into the level this week. We were looking for some continuations, but kind of real no opportunity to get involved there really, and now price looks like it's just rejected the high of the resistance back down to the low, or almost into the low of support. So for AU, I do favor, a continuation back down to the low of the range. Will I trade it? Absolutely not. I'm not looking to trade with it inside the range, especially in the middle of the range. That's just a big no-no for me. My strategy performs a lot better in trending market conditions. I know there's a trend here, seeing some good momentum, but overall within a big range, and I want to see some trends in the 4H. This is more like an hourly 30-minute trend. So maybe in the low time frames, you guys can have some success, looking for some retests and continue that move lower. But for me, I'll be waiting for the market to break outside of the consolidation. So either start breaking above the high here at 0.679 or start clearing the lows here at 0.657. And then once that happens and we get some good momentum on the breakout, I will be looking for my shorts and continuations back down to all the way the lows. Not in one move, but for me, higher time frames for AU are looking very, very clear. Successive low highs. So the long-term forecast is still down to the lows here. And again, we've got a lot of confidence for that. But I want to see the market give me some conviction outside the area, looking for the correction and continuation. And overall goal will be 0.62 for AUD/USD. So the plan for next week is wait for the breakout, and then I'll look for my retracement for trades. If you guys want to trade within inside the range, be my guest. But I'll definitely be waiting for price to clear this support level first. So that's the plan going into next week for AU. Okay, so now over to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD, really nice move to the upside, which I missed this week. I was looking for the retest of this structure. Had some really nice higher lows here coming into this area. So I was looking for price just to wick through this level, then get the push to the upside. Just missed that. I think that was like, that opened on market open, and then price kind of just continue higher. So no trade there for me, but then price has rejected the highs here. So it does not look like we're going to get the continuation I'm looking for in that daily time frame for that big bull flag pattern, big impulse correction. Looking for another big impulse back to the highs, but again, we've had a double top, very aggressive double top up at this resistance here. So at the moment, it looks like we're probably gonna get more downside back down to the lows, and we could just see this overall kind of very, very corrective bearish structure continue back down to the price swing low at 0.82658. So going forward for NZD CAD, looking at some correction, a lower high forming, and then the continuation lower. There's a really nice consolidation here we could get a retest of. There's again, big impulse there, looking for that lower high into 0.846800. This is looking like a lovely place to find some shorts on the correction and the continuation to the downside. And targets, again, that's up to you. If you want to push it further, you've got the lows down here, but there's many lows here. You can target or even if you start retracing from here, this could obviously be a nice target to have as well. So it's up to you on your risk to reward and how aggressive you want to be with your trade management. But overall, that's what I'm favoring for NZD CAD. Again, looking to pivot here. Price has had 2 excessive rejections up at the high of this trend line, not giving us convincing signs that the market is wanting to have that big breakout just yet. The bull flag may still play out, but at this moment in time, we're most likely going to see some more downside. So looking at some corrections back into 0.846 and shorts overall back down into the lows at 0.82733. Okay, so next up we've got pound NZD. So pound NZD, big move to the upside this week, and very, very important weekly candle closure, because I'm looking to see how price is going to hold this resistance here as support, and so far it's doing a very, very good job of that. Big wick to the downside, price is trying to break through, inability to do so, price pulls back up and closes as a bullish, well, very weakly bullish candle. Big wick rejection to the downside, so more like a hammer stick candle there, closure, and looking for a push back down to the highs, or back up to the highs, I mean, into that resistance there, 2.04879. So last week I said, as long as we stay above this area, I'm looking for a push into that level there. So now we've got the fake move to the downside from the weekly perspective. We're looking at next week, maybe a wick to the downside as well, some slight retracement, and then the continuation back to the highs, you know, whether it's back to the resistance here or slightly above it. You know, this area here will be our targets for next week. So dropping onto the lower time frames, 4H, if we move this out of the way, we know the level's there. As long as we don't see a weekly candle closure below the level, and then the trade, the long forecast is still valid. So you can move out of the way, and the key 4H area I'll be focused on is this area here. This is where we had some really nice bearish structure. As you can see, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, break of structure. So I'm looking for us to come and retest that area. This was our last resistance. Gave us that down move, now we rip through that. Let's get the retest of the structure and get the continuations. Again, whether you're looking for a push back to the high or into 2.04879, that's up to you. But from a weekly standpoint, I'm favoring a lot more upside for NZD CAD. So this is what I'm looking at for next week. Let's see if we can get some corrections in back into 1.995, looking for the retest of that level. We'll drop to the hourly for my entries, and targets will be back up to 2.03 for next week for pound NZD. Okay, so now on to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen ourselves looking for some buys down low, and only just to the end of the week we're starting to come lower. So I'm still looking at buys for USD CAD. We do have some bearish bullish structures, but the market is still rejecting the resistance here quite aggressively. So I'm looking for us to come a lot further to the downside. I'm looking at some higher lows coming into this area here. Lovely support, lovely confluence at this area around 98.725. So I'm still looking at another push higher into this same resistance, but again, the market is starting to place in some lower highs now. So yeah, it's not particularly the good sign for the buys for CAD Yen, but still, this is still a solid place to buy from. And again, we don't necessarily have to look for a push all the way to some new highs. You know, back to resistance makes a lot of sense. So for me, for CAD Yen, as you can see, the structure high, low, higher, high, higher, low, higher, high, and looking for a higher low at this area for another push up. But we're having a lot of trouble breaking through the resistance. So I did say last week, if we do start ripping through this area, can look for the retest and continuation. Didn't really see that. Price just consolidated slightly above it. Now we're seeing some conviction back to the downside. So I am favoring another move lower for CAD Yen, and then from this 98.500 level as well, start looking for my longs. And again, nothing too crazy, probably just back into resistance. Get 1 to 3, you know, I'll be more than happy to take my profit at that area. We could see a bigger move, new highs, maybe the price starts flying to the upside, but again, some aggressive downside moves, and it's better be safe than sorry. You know, take your profit. If you do think the market will go higher, you can leave a little bit to trickle, but you know, it's good to realize your gains at decent levels, and 1 to 3, 1 to 4 is a healthy place to be taking your profit. So yeah, CAD Yen, this is the plan I'm looking at executing for next week. Hopefully get another down move into 98.500. Look for some entries at that area and buys back into that same resistance, as you can see, around 100.5. So let's see how this pans out next week. Okay, so on to pound USD. So pound USD, I'm taking a bit of a pause from this pair. I'm not necessarily looking to trade it next week unless something crazy happens. Yeah, price is starting to break some bullish structure. We had some really healthy, or more or less healthy, uptrend here. As you can see, successive high lows being printed with this one, high low, you know, continuously. Until recently, the market's starting to break through this trend line here, and hasn't quite broken through the low just yet, but it looks like it probably will do, in the first few hours of next week. And again, even if it doesn't and starts holding on to support, I wouldn't want to buy the market either. We're showing a lot of signs of exhaustion, and this is not a healthy trend to take. So the fact that we're starting to break through the trend line, the fact that we're seeing aggressive moves to the downside, and also not a very healthy uptrend, tells me that this market is likely to start to reverse. However, the reason why I'm not starting to jump onto the sales like I'm with Euro USD, well, number one, Euro USD has a lot clearer bearish structure. But more importantly, number two, pound USD is coming directly into a very key level of daily resistance. So daily support, sorry, was daily resistance, now turned daily support. So I'm not looking to short directly into this level. If the market starts breaking through this and starts seeing some very good candle closure on the daily chart beneath this level next week, that's why I said if something crazy happens, if you see a big dump to the downside, then yeah, pullbacks, continuations is something I'll be looking for. But I need to see a lot of conviction on the daily time frame before I start looking for that, and then I'll start looking for my corrections to go lower. So pound USD is coming to a nice area of support. There might be a nice bounce to the upside, but I'm not really looking to buy the market anymore. I'm starting to lose a lot of confluence, showing a lot of signs of exhaustion. So I'm not really interested to buy this market. It's a good level of support, so I know some people will be looking to get involved around here, and rightly so, but I know from the way I trade and the characteristics I'm looking for, this is definitely not it. So if the market can keep up this momentum, rip through the levels, see some good daily candle closure below, then actually we'll be looking for corrections. Might not be necessarily just a perfect retest of the level. I'll probably look for some low high on some structure on the 4H to take the trade, but this is something that I'll be looking at going ahead into pound USD for next week. But a lot needs to happen, a lot of downside needs to come through before I start looking at shorts. So the main dollar pair I'll be focusing on will be Euro USD. The shorts look very, very clear to me with that one. Pound USD's got a bit of work to do, but if you can see some conviction, then just maybe there could be a nice little trade maybe towards the end of the week. So keep an eye out for this setup. There might be some nice short-term buys. I'm not interested, but this is what I'll be looking for next week for pound USD. Okay, so now over to pound CAD. So pound CAD still bullish on this one. We still do have some pretty healthy structure across multiple time frames, and also just broken through a very key level, as you can see, which the market is still testing this level here. And a few people were asking me on my streams this week, should we buy pound CAD? It's a nice area to buy, and yes, it is a great area to buy. A lovely daily resistance. Market's still printing higher highs and higher lows. Recently on the daily time frame, a lot of conviction to the upside. So we know the buyers, are present there in the market and likely to see some type of high low at these prices. However, the market is simply just consolidating at this structure, at this level, and not really giving us a much bullish sentiment here. So what I'm looking at for pound CAD next week is two scenarios. Either the market starts breaking to the upside and shows a lot of bullish momentum, clearance resistance, retest structure there, and we can look for the higher lows, get a really nice risk to reward because we can get nice tight stop loss underneath this area, because if the market does come back in the consolidation, we don't want to be a part of the trade anymore. So it doesn't necessarily need to be underneath the daily zone anymore, and then obviously targets naturally back to the highs up there. So this is looking like a decent opportunity, and obviously we're waiting for that breakout, waiting for the momentum to come through, and then we're looking to see if we can jump on the back of that, or we can get a nice fake move to the downside. I'm looking at our trend line and also this area value here with some good Fibonacci retracement confluence around the 0.618. So as you can see, connecting these higher lows, got a lovely area there. We may look to fake the range to the downside, tag some sellers in, and then we see a bigger move to the upside from the same area. And again, this is pretty similar to the analysis I did last week on pound CAD, so nothing really much has changed because all we've had this week is basic consolidation. So yeah, the analysis is pretty much the same. So yeah, pound CAD looking at some buys from both of these two areas, but we do need to clear out that consolidation. Trading this area is kind of 50-50, and yeah, we've got a lot more confidence if price breaks it, get the retest, or price comes deeper into this zone. So that's what I'll be looking at for pound CAD. Keep an eye on 1.675 for some longs, as well as the break and retest of the range here, 1.69, 163 as well. And targets again can be back to highs, or you can manage that up to you. But if the trade, if the swing does continue in the daily, most likely you'll probably see a push back up to 1.71. So that's the plan going into the week ahead for pound CAD. And now we're going to jump into pound yen. So pound yen, I'm looking at buys for this one. Price is at a very, very nice level, which is grabbing my interest. As you can see, lovely level of resistance here. On the daily time frame, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, multiple times. Now it looks like price is holding as support, so we've got a nice little range to work with between the highs over here and this resistance. Simply looking for the continuation back into that same level. You can see the uptrend is still alive and kicking here on the full H time frame. Still seeing lovely impulsive phases to the upside. And also recently, really nice impulse there. We have tested the level originally last week and did see a move up. Didn't quite make it to the highs, but this week we've got a little bit more confidence in our favor. And the market's also just wicked through this prior low here. So we've grabbed a little bit of liquidity underneath this low here. And now we're testing the same area here with that trendline confluence. And also testing this here area here too. Let me see if I can change the color of that to make it stand out. We'll go... yeah, we'll go green, might as well. Okay, so as you can see, this level of resistance here didn't quite get tested last week. We just missed it. Now we've come back to test it. Didn't quite get the entry there because I believe it was out of session. So yeah, coming to 7, 8 o'clock by the time price was showing some momentum. And again, my trading hours finish around 5 p.m. UK time. So I'm looking to see if we can come back next week, stab into the zone again, nice reaction, and get some buy entries around there. Stop loss underneath the zone, targets back into the area of that resistance, and maybe even further if the market wants to break higher. But as you can see, some really nice structure. Market's consistent with the higher highs and higher lows. Unless we break to the downside like so, then of course the sells do look good after that, because then we've got these little highs, 1, 2, and then 3. But we need to see that drive to the downside, clearing out some lows. And then we can be interested with the sells going down. But at the moment, the buys are still holding. And overall, the higher time frames are still pretty bullish as well. So I do favor the buys anyway. So this is what I'll be looking at for next week for pound yen. I like the opportunity. Let's see if we can get pushed back up to 172 for next week. Okay, so now onto gold. So gold here, very, very corrective uptrend, but still alive. The market's still creating these higher highs and higher lows, as you can evidently see, but we're getting a lot of signs of exhaustion. So the buys still look okay, but as you can see, let me change that back to gray. As you can see, the market's starting to fail at these highs once, twice, and now a third time. So the buys don't look fantastic anymore for gold. I said last week we're showing a lot of signs of exhaustion, and then this week we're showing even more signs of exhaustion. So I'm not necessarily a big fan of jumping to buys for gold anymore. If people are, there could be some nice buys coming to this trend line here with this support level. You can notice here, market has not taken out this wick here. So I do think if we get a nice stab through this area, into the trend line there as well, it could be a nice little pop to the upside. But the market now is starting to print these little highs, 1, 2, potentially could be a third one, maybe retesting some structure there as well. So I would say watch out for gold, because yes, the high time frame is still pretty bullish, still seeing good momentum to the upside, and we are pretty close to taking out the wicks there on the weekly chart. But as you can see, we're getting a lot of wicks now to the upside, so we're seeing a lot of exhaustion across multiple time frames. So technically, the structure is still bullish. No major low has been violated. It's a similar opportunity or a similar kind of scenario as we had with Euro USD, where price was retesting those highs, and we're just getting that kind of fluctuation. And now finally, Euro USD is broken structure to the downside. So now we can look for the shorts. That's kind of what I'm waiting for Euro USD. If you can start breaking out some key lows, then yeah, shorts will look good and take it to the downside. But at the moment, price is still flirting with the buyers here. So if you can wick through this, still hold this area here at 2K, I do think there could be some short-term buys. I wouldn't look to sell it either. The trend's still up, almost consolidation. So the sell's not favorable until we get the break to the downside, like we had in Euro USD. Until we start getting the breaks to the downside, then yeah, that is fantastic to take those shorts. But until then, I'm not looking to short the market. So if you're looking at buys, 2K is a decent mark to take some buys. Again, disclaimer, I wouldn't hold the trade too long. Short-term buys. Again, we're failing at the highs here. Not a sign of a healthy uptrend. Sure, I could be wrong. The market could absolutely fly to the upside. But again, we've got to deal with probabilities. What's the probability of the market continue higher? Yeah, not that particularly high. So it's best to take your profit earlier. You can leave some to trickle if the market does continue, if you really want to hold your trade. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at for gold next week. Buys around 2K and a push back to 2043. But I'm just going to be expecting more rejection up at those highs. So keep an eye keep an eye out for that for gold into next week. And now we're on to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin still looking at a bit more downside for this one. We did roll over quite nicely, this week. Again, we have been trading in that very critical zone of 31K. So we have been looking for some downside here for Bitcoin. Buys have never been very attractive into this zone. Colossal support level, which held price very well, gave us a last kind of bull run to the upside, and now coming back to retest that as resistance. So I'm looking at buys for Bitcoin, but like I said, maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks ago, I'm looking at buys around the 25K mark, which are not too far away from. So this is where I'm looking for a pop to the upside. We've got really good confidence at this zone. Whip out the old fib, coming to the 50%. And also we've got these weaker lows, which the market's starting to clear out now. And this is our big kind of fake move to the downside. So I'm looking at a correction and a push up. Again, it might just be short term. We might form a lower high and roll over, or we might rip to the upside. I have no idea, but I know that this probably will give us a good bounce if we can get some good entry confirmation. So that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Buys around 25K. In the meantime, there actually could be some decent sells. Drop into the lower time frames 4H. As you can see, the market's printing some lower highs now. 1, kind of collectively 2. And I do think probably can maybe print a third one if we do see another pop to the upside, and then get the stab into 25K where I'll look for my buys. So there could be some nice sells beforehand if the market does retrace. If it doesn't retrace and just roll over, and then 25K is the place to be for the long opportunities. But if we do see some upside, then yeah, keep an eye on the sells into the same zone on the retest of this structure here. It's kind of support resistance there as well, around 28K. And then I'll be looking at some buys around the 25 for a push back up into that zone, because this is where we could form that next low high. So have to be careful around here, but could be having targets around the 30K mark as well. So yeah, Bitcoin's starting to look very tasty indeed. We could see some good action next week or maybe the week after, depending how things flow. But yeah, if we do see some upside, shorts do look good. And if the market does fall, 25K is where I'll be looking for some entry confirmation to take it higher. So keep an eye on Bitcoin into next week. And last but not least, we've got our bonus pair, which is Euro Yen. So Euro Yen, similar price action to Euro USD in terms of prices breaking to the downside, starting to clear out some key lows here as well. I haven't quite cleared it, it's kind of just kissed it, but it does look like a bigger head and shoulder pattern here. If I whip out the old head and shoulder tool, left head up there, looks like a right shoulder there as well. So I'm looking for the next lower high, correction to the upside, and some more downside for this one. There's a solid level of resistance. Price is not retested yet, so this could be a nice little target for the week. And looks like just before the week ended, we're seeing some retracement, so could see some sells pretty early on. I'm loving the support area here, some minor support level on the lower time frames. As you can see, some nice bearish structure on the hourly. High, low, lower, high, low. Let's see if you can go and get the retest of that. Take out some of these weaker highs here. Probably some stop losses here just before the end of the week. Take them out, go back into 148, then get the follow through into 145, 600. So that's the plan I'm looking at for pound yen into next week. Again, pound yen, euro USD giving us very similar vibes here. So I probably won't trade them both, but either of them give me a good entry signal. I'll be more than happy to take some shorts here to the downside for them. So looking at a target of 145.550. Also, this low here could just be a decent target as well. It's up to you how you want to target that. But in terms of entries and location, I'm looking at this area here. To me, the kind of neckline of the pattern of the head and shoulder is this kind of diagonal here, which is already snapped. So I'm looking at the follow through now to the downside. Seeing some good bearish momentum as well. So it tells me that the bears are starting to kick in. And also we had this big climatic impulse, which tells you that, okay, maybe you are looking to reverse here. And if I go to the daily time frame, as you can see, we have just crept underneath a very solid level of resistance here as well. So it was resistance down the daily, big move to the downside. Now we're back into at it resistance as well. So not only are we shorting from that key lower time frame resistance, we've also got this big daily level here as well, providing some extra support, or resistance I should say, for our sell opportunity. So yeah, stacked with confluences, euro yen, and again euro yen, euro USD, very similar setups here. So we'll be looking at both of them, seeing which one give me the best entries. But yeah, they are looking pretty good. So keep an eye out for euro yen for some shorts back down into 145.550 for next week. And yeah guys, that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you have found it useful, enjoyed it, and as good guidance for next week for your trading. Again, use it as guidance as well. Don't take everything I say as gospel. Make sure you go test and formulate your kind of own personal view in the market, because two people can be trading the same strategies, but trade with two different biases, and both could be profitable as well. But so it's important that you take some nuggets away, but make sure that you're having your own forecast in the market. Therefore, you can learn and progress further. But thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Have a fantastic day. If you have enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe. Almost forgot, hit the bell as well so you don't miss out any uploads in the future. But have a great day, and I'll catch you all next week.